Buongiorno, Johnny. Good to see you, mate. Been too long, but really good to see you.
Good to see you too. Welcome back to Australia.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. I'm just fitting in some time here, but really good to catch up because we've been in touch a long time over the journey. You know, I feel very honoured to have you here because Pitchside Access here, we're here in the Producer Studios, right? Very good friends of mine. But do you know the first time that I ever host anything in my broadcast career was an event? And I don't know if you remember, but it was 2012. This is going back some time ago. And you were my guest there. You were my big name guest there with our good friend Simon Colosimo.
Yeah.
And this is now the first time I've launched this podcast and you are the first guest here. I'll give you this photo. See if you remember this. If you're listening and you can't see it, I'll take you through what it is. But have a scroll to the right here. Have a scroll to the right and see.
Bloody hell, look how young I look too.
Very good times.
Yeah, what was that?
This was a charity, Happy Football Cambodia, very good people, with the launch of my old high school sort of soccer club, football club that they launched. And
brilliant.
This was a very long time ago. So I'm very honoured to have you here.
Michael Lynch as well,
of course,
the journo.
All the big names came out. So that means a lot. And to have you here in the chair is super cool. Yeah. There's some visuals of us doing our thing here as well. My dress
I didn't
choice.
know that. Look, I've obviously worked with you on Optus.
Of course.
A lot during the Euro. That was a special time watching Italy win the Euro.
Of course.
You were over there, probably experienced it better than what I did. But I actually loved doing it in the studio.
A lot of fun.
But it was good. I enjoyed it.
Very good to have you here. And yeah, we had some good times. That Euros was very special. Their COVID period, it was bizarre.
Yeah, it was weird.
Very bizarre.
Weird time, but it was great to have starting to have fans back in the stadium.
Yeah.
And then the football was outstanding. Like it was probably the first time I've seen a tournament that was played in various countries and it made it even more special. Like when Italy were playing in Rome, when Denmark were playing in Denmark, and a lot happened during that Euro to a number of nations. But you know, to watch the football, I think that was probably one of the best Euros I've seen.
Super unique. On that, we'll get to Italy and obviously the cultural transition and your Italian and Australian links, but I can relate very strongly. But watching Italy in a tournament and covering that tournament as we did, do you feel, especially with no Australia involvement, so it's just European nations, it's our origins. Do you feel that strong connection to the Italians watching them play?
Yeah, of course. Of course. I have to be a little bit careful when I'm on air because sometimes you have to make sure that you're not too biased. But I grew up, and so did my family and a lot of my friends and relatives supporting Italy at World Cups because that's Australia never made a World Cup until like this 74 was before I was born, and then when we made it back in 2006, so 82 was the first World Cup I remember. I was only 6 years old, and Italy won. And I remember like that was the first time that we had the VHS recording the actual games, and so we recorded Italy-Brazil. Italy ended up winning 3-2. It was an iconic game. One of the most watched game of the Italians playing in a World Cup against Brazil, who were the best team of that tournament, but we knocked them out. And so then following Italy ever since, the only time that I didn't follow Italy was when we played against them in the World Cup, and they ended up knocking us out. But you still have that strong connection. We probably we feel more Italian here when we're in Australia than we do when we're in Italy.
For sure. You're an Italian, but with a bit of foreign sprinkled in, for sure. Look, it's cool because growing up very similarly, a little bit younger, but growing up very similarly, a lot of the childhood was built on the fact that there was this national team and you'd wake up in the middle of the night, you watch them at World Cups, and then Australia came onto the scene and you had two to support and love. So thanks to you for doing that. But I just have to tell you, because normally, again, we're here in the Producer Studios, very thankful for their support here. Normally, the way that I'll do these chats, I'd love to come to your home, unpack it, relax, and do something that you like to do while doing this. Time's against us here, but I've brought a little bit of home here, okay?
Nice.
I have just a nice bottle of Italian vino.
Yeah, nice.
20 terre, 20 lands.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe we could just share a glass just while we go through and just unpack some of the behind the scenes side of your journey that maybe most don't know about. So As they do here, first I'll give you a little taste test of this. Are you a white or red man?
I'm more of a red man, but I don't mind white.
It's an afternoon. Have a taste, mate.
Especially it's the sun's out, so the white wine when the sun's out.
Exactly, it's nice and hot here. Nice and hot here in Melbourne. You would have loved you would have loved the wine when you were living across Italy.
Well, you know
Spain.
what? When I lived in Italy, I wasn't a massive wine drinker. I was only 19 when I first moved, so I wasn't really, understanding of good wine, or you'll have a glass at dinner because nearly every Italian does. But when I moved to Spain, that's when I started to really understand a little bit more of the wine and what wines are, the great. Cheers.
Salute. Oh, that is very nice.
So in Spain, I lived in an area that there was a lot of wineries around, so not far from a lot of good ones. So Osasuna, the team that I was playing for, some of our sponsors were the wineries. So when we had team lunch or whatever, it would go, all right, everyone would go on to the winery. So I enjoyed that.
I got to know a lot of players in Italy, male and female, and they make me laugh so frequently about the food that the Italians give them before the game and at half time. I grew up playing a lot of Australian sports, and it was often the bananas, the oranges, you get some Gatorade on board, some energy drinks, whatever. In Italy, there's prosciutto, mozzarella and bread, and this is how you eat. So it's just a different way of going about it.
Well, the day before in Italy, I remember because the Italians, the food is incredible, but they're so particular. They always, it's like you're having a salad, you're having a pasta. First you might pick on a prosciutto or whatever, and then you have a meat or a fish. So it's always the same. But I didn't realise that even at the hotels they were very picky. The players would go, oh, that's not good enough. Oh, we want fresher prosciutto, or the grana padano had to be the best grana padano.
You're like, this is all right. Let's just
So it was. I started to really enjoy the food. Then I moved to England, and it was totally the opposite. And I started to get upset about the food.
Yeah, you become one of them. I tell you, I've become exactly the same as well. I've never been a snob when it comes to food and coffee, but I think now I have after too many years there. Tell me, you mentioned before it's a really interesting discussion on you're Italian, you're Australian, you go over there, and the Italian that you feel when you're here in Australia, it's a little bit different in terms of the reception. What sort of impact did that have, especially in your early days? Because for those that don't know, you went to Belgium first, and then Italy was your first time in amongst those big leagues. What was that sort of transition like when, I'm from this place, but I'm sort of not, and I don't feel it?
Yeah. I think at first, look, when I went to Belgium, I already started like the real Australian came out, because you go, okay, these are the things that I do miss about home. Whenever someone asks you where you come from, it's Australia. So again, you start to feel more Australian. But when I went to Italy, being Italian background, that they'll receive me as one of theirs, I was a foreigner. There's no doubt about it, I was a foreigner. And also back then there was only 3 foreigners allowed in your team. So I still hadn't, I had Italian passport, but I didn't have the Italian citizenship to be classed as an Italian. So I was a foreigner in that team. And so the even more added pressure. I was only 19, 20, and I really felt that they didn't want to take me as one of theirs until, unless you represented Italy, you're a foreigner. And so I did feel Australian. They when I didn't do well, they made sure that they told me I was Australian and I couldn't play football.
You're Italian when you're on fire, and Australian every other time.
Yeah, so it was. I went through a difficult stage in Italy. When I first went there was we were fighting relegation at Cremonese. I arrived there in around December time, so the team was already down the bottom. Started really well. Started games and I scored straight away. In the first couple of games, I scored 2 goals, and then I was doing well. But then as soon as things didn't go well, I didn't know how to deal with the pressure. And as you know, in Italy, they can scrutinise pretty badly. And back then they would mark in the paper, they'll give you a mark out of 10, and they'd, some of my teammates are getting 7 8s and I'm getting a 2. And I didn't know how to cope with that. And then all of a sudden the fans are booing you at the stadium, and you're getting police escorted out of the stadium, your own stadium. That was weird. That was strange. Then you're not allowed to, but as soon as you set foot out of the house, people start abusing you. I didn't know how to cope with that, and that was tough.
It's that aspect of football in Italy, across Europe, but I can speak for Italy, where football is really a religion.
It is.
And it impacts every aspect of day-to-day life for everyone that commits everything they have to this. It is their identity.
Yeah.
And it can be the best thing in the world, but as you said, it can also become very difficult, overwhelming, and the pressure starts to mount. You're so young. Fans from Australia are great. We've got a young player on the other side of the world, hopefully a big career ahead. But they see the 90 minutes on the pitch. There's another 6 days and 22 and a half hours in the week. How, as a youngster with little experience traveling abroad alone, how do you start to find your way out of that and start to mature and grow up while still trying to maintain your performances on the pitch?
Yeah, it took time. I would say that I learned from every setback and every difficult moment, and also from the positive moments, of course, because there were plenty of positives still that I could have taken out of the situation. But you during that period, it's hard to find the positives. So you have to find people that you can talk to that can help you through situations, and that's not easy because cutthroat over there. Sometimes your teammates, you think that they're your friends, but they might not necessarily be your friends. So you have to find your feet pretty quickly. You have to become street smart pretty quick, and
you're forced to learn.
Yeah, you are, because you think that like growing up here, everything's quite comfortable and easy, but like you said, over there, it's not all comfortable. It's not all easy. It's that's their life. Football, but also people trying to make money out of the game and trying to. So I didn't realise this, but say Cremonese at the time playing Serie A. Cremona's a little town city of 70,000 people. Now, when Juventus come into town, the cafes and bars and restaurants are all full. So when Regina come into town in Serie B or Serie C, they're not coming from Reggio Calabria up there. So you're already affecting their economy if you get relegated. So I didn't understand that, but a few years later when I went to Spain, I understood. So I understood what it meant. So I just made sure that in Spain I related to them more than probably what I did in Italy. I was a bit more, about what I had to do for myself instead of going, okay, I understand. I know it's not personal. It's that that's their life. That's what they're living. So understand that, try and work your way through it. But it wasn't easy. You have to work your way through.
And it wasn't today, right? We have, and I've experienced this over my journey as well, very young when I traveled abroad the first time for my work, and technology and social media wasn't what it was even recently. Back then, you're alone. I'm sure you're the same with your family. My family moved to this country on a boat. They had no idea. They had no concept of the language, no nothing. You're going the other way, but you still don't have the regular connection of today's day and age. It's still tough today, but back then, how did you cope without the family and the contact to those back home? And I guess even in across Europe, other Australians in Europe, it still can't be so connected. Yeah. There had to have been moments where you do question, you're lonely. How do you overcome those periods?
Yeah, I would say the first 2 to 3 years were, I moved to Europe, Belgium, when I was just before I turned 17, so I was still 16. They were the toughest years that I had to deal with, because you're right, there was no social media, there was no FaceTiming, there was no, I didn't even get my first mobile phone until I was 21. So it was all reverse charge. It was all like all writing letters or whatever. And I wasn't the best at writing letters anyway, but so my family would write letters or whatever. So it was, you're alone. And you felt alone. You're 20,000 kilometres away, and it felt like 20,000 kilometres away. It wasn't like your family could come and jump on a plane over the weekend, or they all had their lives and whatever else. So there were times that I questioned, because there were times that I cry myself to sleep, and there were times that I'd be going, is this worth it? What am I doing? Especially when you're not performing well, or you're going through an injury stage that you're not playing. Everyone talks about, but you still get paid. there's nothing worse than not being able to play the game you love or that's your profession. So yeah, you'll have your problems when you play. You have your form problems, or you're not getting selected, or whatever. But when you're injured, you're not even setting foot on the training field, and so it's hard, and that's where you have to cope mentally. And over years, you build a resilience, you build mental strength. But the first few years were really tough.
Really well said. I can relate in my own field. It is that it's not as all rosy and glitzy and glamorous as it looks. There's a lot of unknown and difficult times that make you who you are. But you said there the resilience factor. Obviously, in hindsight, it's easy to say, yes, I am who I am now thanks to that. But in those difficult periods, are you able to you're a young man, you're just developing, you're focusing on your football, but are you able to find the strength to say, this will all be worth it, find a way, keep pushing? Because, again, I always come back to the thing of we come from a very beautiful country. We're so lucky to come from this country. And I've thought to myself so many times, I could just stay in Australia and I have a beautiful life, I have family, friends, everything there. But I always had this unrelenting desire to chase something abroad. How do you maintain that focus on the objective, which is to take your football career as far as you can, when there is an alternative, which could have been, come home and live a bit more comfortably?
Look, there was no doubt that it would have been more comfortable for me back here in Australia, living and at home with my family, friends, the weather. Life is good here. It's definitely one of the best places to live in the world. But I always had a dream of playing at the highest level possible. So when I was in Belgium, my dream was to play, first team at my club, but it was to get to a higher level. Then when I was in Italy, it was, all right, I'm at a high level, but I want to get more. I want more. And sometimes you might have to take a step back, which I had to when I went to England in the championship. But it was always to get to the highest level, play Premier League, play La Liga, represent Australia, try and, play in a World Cup. So that you have to try and refocus when you're going through a difficult time. I would also read a lot, so I'd read self-help books. When I was young, I used to read a lot of the Bible as well, because I was alone and I felt alone. So I had to look for something that was going to give me strength. Still the self-help books helped me through a lot of, that period where you're second-guessing your own ability, and also you're second-guessing what you're doing, and because you've got no one really to turn to. I was also lucky I had in Belgium, I had Aurelio Vidmar, who was from Adelaide. I knew him from Adelaide City. He'd been in Belgium, he was living there, playing there, and so he dealt with a lot of the things that I was dealing with, and so I was able to ask him, talk to him. So that was a big help. And if you can get that, it can help you through, situations as well.
Again, very well articulated, because, again, the fan would see the young promising player just moving across the world. How good's this? Living in Belgium and Italy and England and Spain, amazing, good opportunity, good experience. But there's so much more to that. And I find it interesting that turning to the self-help and the religious side of things, did that, particularly with the religious side, did that faith provide you that comfort and confidence within yourself that stick to the plan, there are bigger things ahead? Yeah,
it definitely did. And look, I don't want to harp on about religion, because everyone's got their own beliefs.
Of course.
But I just felt, so when you read something, or whether it's religion or whether it's self-help books, they're teaching you something that you probably already know, but there's a story behind it, and there's a way of getting through it. So I like to visualize, what might happen in the future in terms of, I try and see myself achieving something, and that's all it is really. When you're reading all these things, it's about, you're going to go through difficult moments. You're going to go have obstacles put in your way. It's how you overcome those obstacles. My dad used to say, and this might be a good one if you quote, after rain there's sunshine, so because you're going through bad periods, but
I like that.
But there's always the light at the end of the tunnel. That's Even though you might not see it, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. And so you try and these books just remind you of that. That's all it is.
For sure. I like that. I haven't revealed this yet, but that will go in the book very, very soon. I like that a lot because it's exactly right. And I think I love the philosophy of, as you're alluding to, you're committing to a journey here. You do have a destination in mind. You do have a goal in mind, but you've really got to commit to that. And
the journey is part of. Everyone wants to get to the destination, but the journey is the best part of it.
The best part.
And so as long as you are living that and trying to experience that and live in the present, yes, you've got your destination. But so many people are still unhappy when they get to the destination because they haven't enjoyed the journey. Correct. Now the journey is sometimes tough. It definitely is. Like you go through in professional sport, there's a lot more downs than there are highs, I can tell you. But those highs become more special because of those downs that you have during your period of playing or coaching or whatever you do in your professional career.
Couldn't agree anymore. The losses, the constant losses make the wins all the more sweeter.
Yeah.
No doubt. You've got young kids looking up to you and the generation and what you guys were able to achieve on the pitch. You've got a young teenager coming through the ranks now. What's your message to them to ensure that, you know, the right heads on the shoulders, the right focus is there? What do they need to focus on most at this stage of their career, as you did, that will enable them to sort of maximise their potential at the highest level?
I think the work ethic is a big part. I was lucky that my dad, again, you know, he taught so many like values and special values, but the biggest probably one that it was work. Work hard at your whatever you do, whether you if that's your job, whether it's that's the profession that you've set out to do, or for me it was football. So he goes, work hard at your game, always try and improve. No matter how old you are, you're always trying to improve. So when I was injured, or when I was younger, or when I was trying to, develop my game at an early age, I would watch players in my position. So I remember at the Institute of Sport, one of the coaches would cut up a video of and back then it was videos of Gary Lineker. You know, everyone talked about Gary Lineker. He always scores tap-ins. Yeah, but how's he finding space in the box? What's he doing to move to get that space? And so, I would study that. And then I loved Marco van Basten. What does Marco van Basten do? And then when I was injured in England for a long period, I was out for over a year, I was down, really down. But then I started to go to games and watch, the strikers of the opposition, Van Nistelrooy or these guys' movement and what they're doing. Just focus on them. And so, like, for a younger player, I think it's really important that you learn the game. Because, yes, training's one thing, and you must be prepare properly for training to be able to get the best out of yourself every day. Even when you're not feeling good, you have to find a way. But also you're learning the game, and a lot of people are visual learners nowadays. So watch football. A lot of kids nowadays don't watch a lot of football. They watch highlights. Watch football. Watch games. Learn your trade properly, and you learn it from the best. Whether you're watching Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, you watch a player in your position, watch what he does well, and sometimes he might make mistakes. Why did he make that mistake? So they're things that I try and tell the younger players to look at and try and keep on improving their game.
Sounds simple advice, work ethic, invest time into it, and sometimes the simplest of advices is exactly what you need to prosper. But I think that's wonderful advice for anyone coming through, for sure.
A player that I play with in Spain, Mauricio Pellegrino, he played a little bit at Barcelona. I play with him at Alaves. He played with Figo at Barcelona, and he goes, the hardest working player I've ever seen. He goes, in the gym, on the pitch, looked after himself, made sure he ate the right foods, sleep, all the recoveries. He goes, that's why he played and was able to get to that level that he did.
Still had a lot of fun off the pitch too. I had a night out in Las Vegas with Luis Figo, which was a lot of fun. Took my brother along as well. That was good times many years ago. Kids now, you got plenty of advice on what to do, but looking just quickly on Australia, the current setup, where things are at. So often the debate is, can we replicate or can we have the golden generation 2.0? What needs to improve or continue to develop and progress here to see Australia get back to where it was and competing with the very best internationally?
I think that it's definitely where the younger players are getting more opportunities now. So that's great. And they're getting games that are a lot younger and a lot more games than what they probably had in the last 20-odd years. So the A-League's been really good for younger players developing and coming through. I think that now we talk about mental strength and we talk about the resilience and all that. I think that needs to improve. Now, we speak about the likes of Mack, Bresciano, all these guys, they'll have the same story as what I had. They'll have their setbacks when they went into Europe. They'll have their having to get over some difficult obstacles, but they were able to fight through that. Now, this younger generation, the ones that are going over, need to be able to fight through it and then stay over in Europe as long as possible. So whether that means that they're going at the right time in terms of their age or their character, or when they're over there, that when they have a setback, that don't let that define them and then come back home again. So it's one of those ones that I think the A-League, again, is improving all the time, and the younger players are improving with it. The foreigners were bringing in a better, the standard is really good. We shouldn't look at comparing our standard to Premier League or Serie A, because it's completely different. We have to make sure that we are at a level like in Asia, that how we are progressing compared to Japan or China or Korea. And if we can still be at that level, then our league's doing well. And I think we are. I think we're getting there. But the younger players, and again, need to build a little bit more of that resilience, because over in Europe, it's cutthroat. The media are, as you know, on top of you. The supporters are on top of you, and they're a little bit sheltered here in that sense. There's no promotion relegation, so there's not that of fighting for your life, and so it's the pressures aren't there like they are in Europe.
Can we manufacture that hunger in some capacity? Still in Italy, it's decreased significantly from what I'm told in recent decades, but still in Italy, I see, even in Milan where I live, there are kids playing on the streets. We see that there is that hunger to move forward. I've made great friends with some players, particularly from South America, from Africa, who move to a top league in Europe, where it's like, okay, the reality is very clear here. I make it to the top, or I stay where I was. And I think I can answer my own question. You can't necessarily manufacture that, but is there a way to just evoke a stronger sense of hunger from our youngsters coming through?
Well, there was always that there with the South Americans and the Africans that come from, probably not the luxuries that we have here in Australia, put it that way. And so they have that different hunger. They have the fight for survival. Whereas when we were growing up, the Australians had that fight to win, and it was always we're a country that likes to win. We're not a country that likes to lose, whether it's cricket, tennis, or whatever. So we've been able to produce good sports people and athletes because of that competitive nature. So it wasn't because of our upbringing. We went without food. It was an upbringing that we were sort of trained to fight to win. And so I think that's gone a little bit because of and that's everywhere around the world.
No
doubt
about that.
Not just Australia, but it's gone that there's no point system at a certain age. That don't count the scores. I don't like that. Yeah. I want there to be a winner. Yeah. And then there's a loser.
Again, you learn from the losses.
That's right. And so a lot of the time you might learn more when you lose.
Correct.
And so I think that kids need to understand that feeling as well. So I think that's something that you can still manufacture.
For sure. Growing up just came to mind. Did you have any particular Australian sporting
cricket
idol?
I loved cricket because I played a little bit.
You've told me that many times. You were a bowler?
Yeah, I wasn't great.
What'd you bowl? A bit of pace?
Yeah, a little bit of pace at a younger age.
Off spinner?
Nah. I used to spin the ball, but it was more cut.
I used to bowl them as well.
Yeah, so my brother was a better batter. Yeah. But I used to love watching cricket. I used to back when I was growing up in the 80s, West Indies were the powerhouse, and Gordon Greenidge and Desmond Haynes and all these, Clive Lloyd, Viv Richards. I could name the whole virtually team, but I like the fast bowlers, Michael Holding and Curtly Ambrose. But you always liked Australia. You wanted Australia to win, and Alan Border was someone that you looked up to because he was that Australian captain that when the chips were down, he would be able to fight the way through it. And same with Steve Waugh. They were the two that I probably looked at and go, okay, they made sure that they found a way to get their team to win.
Amazing. Very cool. And football-wise, did you have a team growing up you supported?
I was Juventus.
You still keep an eye on them?
Not anymore. I stopped following teams when I started playing, obviously.
Sure.
And then since, then coaching, I have so many ups and downs with my own team. I don't need to be a supporter that's going to get too emotional.
There's only so much stress one can handle.
That's right. But I was a Juventus supporter, also played for Adelaide City Juventus.
Yes, of course.
But my early years of Juventus was early 80s, and then they had like a top team, Paolo Rossi, Boniac, Bettiga. They had really, a lot of these people that are probably listening to this don't know who I'm talking about.
They're top players.
Yeah, but they had the best team in Italy in Serie A and probably around the world at that stage.
At Cremonese, did you play?
Played Juventus.
Home and away?
Yeah, played I don't think I played them away. Played them at home, definitely. AC Milan played them home and away. AC Milan at that period had the best defence. They had the best side. They won the Serie A easily that year. But they had Baresi was playing, Paolo Maldini, Costa Curta, and then the Baggio was in that squad, Savicevic, Boban. They had an incredible team. Where they were unplayable.
Amazing. San Siro. Amazing stadium.
San Siro was probably my favourite stadium in Italy.
My favourite in the world. Absolute favourite in the world. Any fan listening and you want to do a Europe trip, San Siro number one on the list.
Yeah, San Siro was great.
Amazing. Club life has the struggles. Again, we could go in depth about them for a long time because there's so much to unpack. You move to different countries, different cultures, different languages, so many challenges, and respect so much what you were able to do on the club front because it's fantastic, especially coming from the other side of the world at that time. National team, though, is a completely different beast. You're representing your country, and very, very few people get to do this in their life. I think everyone would dream about doing it. Simply putting on the Australian shirt for the first time, getting first minutes on the pitch, but doing something, again, which is so rare to do. Clubs, you play at a top level, but there are clubs all over the world. You can play, whether you're in Adelaide, whether you're in Italy, you can find somewhere to play. But to represent your country, at the moment where that became a reality, what does that actually mean to you to feel, okay, look, I've arrived here, I've done this, I've ticked this box?
Yeah, look, whenever you played for Australia, it was a special moment. When you play for any national team, especially where you're from. So it was a dream of mine to play for Australia. It was a dream of mine to play in a World Cup, and I was lucky enough to be able to do that. But I first played for Australia. I was 21. It was North Macedonia in Skopje against them. We won 1-0. So I started the game. It was a big thing to finally you're representing your country and listening to the national anthem. But every time you put on the jersey, it meant something. It definitely
never take it for granted.
Nah, never did. And it was special because it doesn't happen every week. Plus you're going with your players that you grew up with as well. Like I grew up with Mark Viduka at the AIS, Josip Skoko, Craig Moore, and then you get to know others and then through a 10-year period you form really good relationships with a lot of players, and so you look forward to seeing them. You know that your family and friends are watching, because sometimes at club level they can't always watch it through the night or whatever it is. But when you're representing your national team, they're watching, they're supporting, and you felt that, and you just felt that every time you put on, I felt the Australian jersey, that you're a different player. I felt that Australians. even when we're underdogs, we could fight and get results against better teams than us, better national teams than us, and so many times we proved that, and so we felt that every time we played, we could beat anyone.
That's amazing. I love the concept of, you're playing for something more. Yes, they're watching, but it's for your people and for your country. Truly special, truly remarkable. The World Cup, again, you said you grow up watching Italy playing World Cups, and then you play Italy in a World Cup. And obviously that journey, well documented, remarkable. Obviously for the squad and yourself, it starts thanks to your penalty against Uruguay, one of the most iconic moments in Australian sports history, and it ends with a late penalty against Italy. But that whole journey from the moment you converted that spot kick to the moment that it did come to an end, that's everything you dreamt of. That's everything you aimed for. To have that play out in front of you, and now obviously to be able to reflect on that, just how special was it to be able to represent your country to World Cup, something we hadn't done in forever, and obviously to have played a key part. But just what was that whole journey like, representing Australia on the world stage?
Look, I was in 3 World Cup campaigns, 2 that we failed. The first one against Iran here in Melbourne. We got knocked out by goal difference. The next one was against Uruguay. And then to finally get there, and I just felt, not only myself, but and I know a lot of my teammates would have felt the same, we were at the top of our game as individuals. Like I felt that 29, 30 years old that I was at, that I was tactically aware. I knew my game inside out. I understood, when I played against certain individuals, what I could do against those individuals or teams. Physically, I felt that I was at the best that I could have been, and mentally, I could deal with pressures a lot better than what I could have dealt with younger. So you're going into this period, the World Cup. Was the biggest highlight of my career. It was when people, and I remember having the Mexican coach at Osasuna, and before we went to the World Cup, he goes, "You know what? If you make a World Cup, you'll experience something you've never experienced in football." And I was like, I've played at the Bernabéu. We've beaten Real Madrid. Like that's pretty good. We played at a level where that he goes, World Cup is something else. I didn't realize what he meant until going to it. The experience was so good. Like, it was everything that you dreamt about and more. We're going to training and there's 10,000 people watching us train. And you're going,
where were you based in
we were
Germany?
based, I can't remember the little town we were based in Germany, but it was only us at the hotel.
Sure. You had a little village to yourself.
Yeah, we had a village to ourselves. So, that was one thing. And then, you're with your teammates that you get along with, that you've played with, that you know. So you're comfortable with them. You're in this bubble, really, that no one, the outside world aren't really. Social media wasn't big back then, so you didn't have to worry about reading or seeing anything. We got excited if we saw, celebrations back home. Someone would show us, and Federation Square when we beat Japan or whatever. But the experience of just training every day, not always the fans were there. There was a lot of closed sessions. But then going to the stadium and seeing, the Socceroos jerseys as you're pulling up to the stadium, and then seeing, I think at nearly every game, we had more supporters than the opposition. You're talking about Brazil, Italy, Croatia probably was. I would say that Croatians probably might have outnumbered us because they had a lot of support there. Also, because there was a lot of Croatians in Germany. It was special in that. It was special because you knew the whole world was watching that game, because there's only one game on at any given time, so the whole world's watching it. Especially when you're in a footballing country like Germany, you know that they're all stopping, and then the rest of the world stopped to watch it. And the experience of it, and then the way we performed was special.
Absolutely. Days when you had maybe a light training day or no match, what did you do with your time?
Yeah, a lot of the time we stayed in the hotel, but I think it was after the first game, Gus Hiddink allowed us to go visit our family. So we went in our civilian gear, casuals, and we were allowed to sleep at their hotel. and I remember that we were walking the streets in Stuttgart, and then we watched a game that was on that night on the big screen at a restaurant, and it was sort of because we weren't that well known. We weren't like the Francesco Totti that probably couldn't walk down the street, so we were able to walk down the street. Yeah, a few Aussie supporters would recognise us, but not anyone else. So it was actually nice to be able to experience that. But most of the other time we're in the hotel.
And just on that last match for you again, growing up in the way that you did in this country with Italian origins, was there anything different just about the opportunity, the prospect of, again, the life goal was to make a World Cup, but then also to play for your country against your country of origins? Yeah. Anything extra unique, special about that?
It was. I remember going to the game and thinking about my grandparents, how they moved to Australia to obviously have a better life, and thankfully that we have a better life than what they would have grown up with. So I started to think about them and how special would have felt for them. They weren't alive during that period, but that was the first thought, and then about my parents, and then but once the game started, it was they're in opposition, they're opposition. But the feeling before that, but I remember because Italian origin, you obviously you wanted to beat them so badly. I was so upset when we lost. That's it. I'm never supporting Italy ever again until they made the World Cup final, and I thought I'd rather them win than France. But it was. I remember before the game we were national anthems. The two captains swapped the pennants, and our gear steward at the time was bringing over, and it had the Italian flag pennant, and it had the round of 16, the date, Australia v Italy. And where's that go? And he said, in the FA offices. And I go, put it in my bag. So I've got the only pennant. And the FA, if you're still looking for it, you're not getting it.
You're not getting it. And I told you to bring in something special today, and that could have been, but it's not in the state at the moment. We don't know where it is, but it's not here.
No, it's not here. It's not here. I've got it somewhere, but it's not here.
I need to see that one day. That's a very special memento. Yeah. Obviously, they went on and won it, but from a personal perspective, in terms of the two countries,
what I'll do when I know where it is, but I'm not going to let anyone know. But I'll take a photo of it and I'll send it to you.
A photo will suffice. I'll throw it in a frame or hang it up in Milan. That is brilliant. So it's there. That's what happens. I think that's always very interesting. After the match, you always see them exchange these pennants. Where do they go?
Yeah.
There's so many of them.
Look, the FA probably don't know it's missing.
No, there's not. There's been enough games since then. They don't need to know. Look, amazing. I guess that's another area of the World Cup experience, because you, as a broadcaster, as a fan, you cannot even begin to comprehend how emotional, enjoyable, and everything that comes with that experience. It's not just the 4 matches that you guys played and performed so well in over there. It's the whole journey. It's the lead up. It's everything about it. So amazing. And it's obviously set the bar and the tone now of the expectation in Australia. And what I do like from the media side, I love the fact there's more pressure. There's that expectation that we continue to grow. So credit for you guys for setting that standard. For you, though, we've discussed various parts of your footballing journey, but at what moment of your young life was it when the light switched and like, okay, this is something I can seriously pursue? Because it's great now to recount some of the great moments for club and country, but looking back, that little boy who was kicking a ball in the backyard, when did it click for you that, okay, I'm half decent at this this could be my next step?
I think when I was 14 years old, I was playing for South Australia at the Nationals down in Tasmania, and I scored in every game, and became leading goal scorer of the tournament. So these are the best players in Australia at our age level at that stage. And I thought then, I go, okay, I've got something here that I think that I can go to another level. I think I can pursue a career out of this, because if I'm doing it at this level, as long as I keep on working, and that was again, something that my parents told me, don't get ahead of yourself, don't get carried away. Make sure you keep working,
sure.
and improving, and so that's when I really started to believe that, okay, I'm not bad. I can as long as I keep going, I can maybe have the career. And then my dream was to play in Europe. Like, you always had a dream as a kid, but you're not sure if that's ever going to happen. But then when you start to get to that age and you start to go, okay, I really dream and I feel that I can have a career overseas.
And then you make it happen and write your own story. Career so well documented. An aspect of all players' careers I'm always fascinated with, those that, like everything, eventually comes to a close. The end of your playing days, what are the emotions at that time? You go from living a life built on a dream as a youngster, which then becomes a reality. You achieve so many highs. You achieve so many valuable experiences. I see so much value in the opportunity to have traveled and lived in different parts of the world to enhance your perspective. When you finish in that sort of routine and you're taken out of that system, how do you transition into the next phase of your life, where suddenly you're told where to be, when to be, where to play, and now all of a sudden it's okay, now I sort of have to start the next phase of my life. How did you find that period and that transition?
I was quite fortunate that I felt that I had an interest in coaching just before I retired. So when I was in Spain, I had an assistant coach that I really enjoyed working under, and speaking to him and going, okay, I don't mind the coaching side of things, and psychology behind it, putting on training sessions and trying to improve players and improve your team and get them to replicate what you're trying to do. So I started to do my coaching badges just before I retired. So I was already there trying to transition into that field. So I was lucky in that sense. I was ready to retire because my body started to really give way. I think the last 3 years I was playing in pain, so that wasn't enjoyable. But playing is the best. Nothing can replicate playing. There's no doubt about it. The playing side of football is the most enjoyable. The being with your teammates, especially if you have a good group, is the most enjoyable. The changing room you can't replicate. That's there. That's gone forever. Whether you become a coach or you become a television pundit or you change professions completely, you're not getting that back. So I always say, if you're able to play at a level and you're physically okay, play as long as you can, because that you're never getting that life back again. So it was a little bit sad, but I was ready to retire because of my body. But I sort of knew that life had gone. So then you're starting a new chapter, and then the coaching was there. And you're right about you know where you have to be. Your life is virtually planned out for you when you're a player, and a little bit the same when you're a coach, because even though that you're having to plan for everyone else, but it's still planned. Where I struggled was between coaching jobs, and I wasn't playing or coaching, and I was like, what do I do? Like, I was doing some work with Optus, and then I would do some other stuff and that. But it's like you don't have to be. And I couldn't understand when people were saying that you have to be here at 5 and people turning up at 5:30. I'm going, that's not normal. Like, you're supposed to be here at 5. Why are people turning out late? Because it's ingrained in you that you cannot be 30 seconds late. And then preparation, when people, and I've worked with people in media that aren't prepared, and I'm going, that's not right. You have to be prepared when you're doing something. You have to be prepared that, when you're talking about someone. But because you're so involved in what, I'm not saying all media, I'm saying some, because there's a lot of media there's a lot of media that do a lot of good preparation and are prepared for it.
But you've come from this world where you're so used to everything.
You're so used to it. So I'm used to analysing now as a coach games like in detail, and then when you're watching it on you're doing the halftime analysis or full time, you haven't got time to give your full analysis. No. So not everyone's watching it the same. They're watching for bits that they're going to pick up on, like if someone a penalty decision, and that's the main focus, and they're going to talk about that.
Of course.
So I couldn't understand that at first. I was going, yeah, but there's a whole game. There's a reason why he made these subs. There's a reason why they're playing this way. There's a reason why this team is playing like this. There's stories behind that, but that's not always the case when you're you haven't got time to bring that all in.
Did working in media, especially as you're finding your feet coaching, did working in media help?
It helped. Definitely helped. Definitely helped. Helped a little bit also with my coaching because I know that I've got the knowledge, but you have to simplify it as much as possible. So simplify it for your playing group, and so media teaches you that you have to get your point across pretty quickly and make sure that people understand and just make it simple for everyone to understand.
I always tell people that. I say, speaking into a microphone, it's a bit unnatural, but once you get the hang of it, but you have to articulate something. Everyone can explain something if they've given 5 minutes.
That's right.
But do that in 10 seconds.
That's right.
That's the job.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. But that helped. That helped. Yeah,
Of
it helped me a lot. And so then also helped me talking to media.
Yes.
Because at first I was like, because as a player, you're taught, be careful what you say. That's what you're taught. And not always. Now I look back and I go, that was probably the wrong information. You have to still be genuine. And of course you don't bag your teammate or you don't bag your opposition.
There's a line, but
but what I learned when I crossed over was that a journalist might be asking you a question, but not necessarily has he seen the game like you see the game. So don't take it to heart. He needs to probe somehow in whatever or she to get something out of you. But you're not just talking to them. You're talking to the audience. Who's in the audience? Your team, your players, your staff, your board, your chairman, your supporters, the opposition. So you're talking to all of them. So when you're answering, don't think that you're talking to the person across from you. You're talking to that audience, and that was, I felt, being in media helped me understand that side.
When we look at you now personally, you sit with your experience you've had as a player, coaching and media. What drives John Aloisi? What motivates you now? What are the dreams and aspirations for the continuation of this next phase of your life and your career?
I think it's no different to what it was like when I was a player, is to get to the very top. Now, where that leads to, I don't know. But I do have dreams of coaching, one day in Europe, hopefully coaching the Socceroos one day. All these dreams are still there. But knowing that the present is very important, that I have to do well with my current club. But what drives me every day is always learning, because I think that as a human being, you always, if you've got that drive of learning, then you're always going to wake up in the morning going, okay, I'm going to work. So you can never stop learning, put it that way. And it's hard for me to watch any football game and try and enjoy the football game. I'm looking for patterns in the game. I'm looking for, when a player, defending their body shape, when a player is attacking, their movements, how they're finding space, where they fall run, or a whole team. Okay, I can see that pattern. I understand why they're trying to do it. How's that shifting the opposition? So I'm always So when people go, "Oh, did you enjoy the game?"
Didn't really see what you saw.
Yeah, I'm analysing a game. And so that's what drives me. It drives me to I love seeing individuals improve as well, and seeing them go to another level that you've got you're working with, and your group. If you can improve your group, everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to win. I love winning and I hate losing, but I also know it's part of the game. But also, sometimes you're given certain, if you're coaching Real Madrid, you're expected to win because you're going to get the financials, you're going to get the players and whatever else. But sometimes when you're coaching an Osasuna, it's like, you're not going to win, but how do you get your team to a level to improve them? And it's no different in the A-League. Even though everyone says there's a salary cap league, it's not really even, because you have 4 players outside the cap. You have 2 marquees and 2 budget players. So there's certain clubs that can spend virtually triple what you're spending. Also, you've got clubs that will get 20,000 people at a game. At the moment, our club doesn't. So, all these factors can come into play. But you have to understand that, accept it, and not use it as an excuse, but use it, how do I get the best out of my team, my club, my group? And so that drives me every day.
Love that. Australia, very cool. If you had to pick one club in Europe, you say you want to go to Europe, who would be the ideal club?
I'd love to, people say don't go back to your old clubs because, you might have had a good time there and then they could.
You don't want to spoil it.
You don't want to spoil it. But, I had such a good time at Osasuna, even Alaves, that I'd love one day to be able to coach them. But, of course, you want to coach the biggest teams in Europe. It would be great. That's why it's so good that Ange is, I know he's going through a difficult time now, but to see where he's got to through his coaching, to coach, a big club like Tottenham in the Premier League, you go, okay, that's he's setting I'm not saying that there's a pathway, but it's showing that we can do it.
Of course.
We need the opportunities, yes, but we can get to that level.
Of course. Everything is possible for sure. Johnny, before we wrap up, it's been a big pleasure. I told you to bring in something very special, iconic, different about your career, which you've got. It wasn't the pennant that it could have been,
the pennant.
I'm waiting for that photo next time. But you, again, such a storied career as a player and so many cool moments. I know you have a lot of shirts. What do you do with these shirts?
Well, I've never actually put them up. I've never put them in frames because we move so much with either playing or coaching. They're just in cupboards everywhere. So
different states, different countries.
Yeah. So when you asked me, I was thinking, well, what do I bring in? I did have a couple of Real Madrid shirts when we played against them. And I thought, but that's Real Madrid. But a lot of people, when we talk about national team, only ever ask me about either Uruguay or the World Cup. Sure. And but just before that, we played in the Confederations Cup, and it was in Germany. And our games were against Germany, Argentina, and Tunisia. And I felt, again, I was saying about the top of my game was that period there. And I scored 2 goals against Germany and 2 goals against Argentina.
Finished second top scorer in the tournament?
Second top scorer,
Who was top scorer in the tournament?
Adriano of Brazil, and he played extra game because they went to the final, and Mikel Ballack. So
fair play.
I was like, okay, that's not bad company to be around. But I ended up swapping tops with...
who have we got here?
Walter Samuel.
Walter Samuel, of course, played a lot in Serie A.
Played Real Madrid,
yes,
Inter Milan.
Of course, Inter Roma.
Beautiful Argentinian top. It's quite nice.
Silly question, but after you get the shirt, does it go in the wash and then it comes out?
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
Yeah, not
Good
all the
question
time.
then.
Not all the time.
Okay.
So I've got Beckham's jersey at Real Madrid, and it had grass stains on there. So I was thinking,
that's kind of good. So this was the match worn Samuel shirt.
Yeah.
Beautiful exchange, and you scored 2 against Argentina.
Yeah. We lost, but I'm not going to bring that up.
We're not bringing that up.
And then the first game was against Germany. I could have got Oliver Kahn because I scored 2 against Oliver Kahn. That would have been nice. But I got Huth that played at Chelsea, played in I think Stoke, and there
you go.
At the time,
beautiful. Two of the powerhouse nations, of course. The Argentina shirt now has 3 stars, so this is a nice
and he was
one.
part of the coaching staff that won the World Cup. Recently, so
sensational,
amazing.
They're absolutely amazing, and just the names you mentioned there, that's the level. And I love the fact you're saying there's that period of your career you just felt on top of the world and got to enjoy that World Cup, which you and the squad richly deserved as well. Absolutely amazing, and mate, this is again. Really grateful to have you involved as the first guest on this, because this is exactly what it's about. There's more to the story than the accolades and the success that everyone, of course, knows about, but there's real life hard work, commitment, and dedication that goes to exchanging a couple of shirts with a few big names. And
now I don't know if they're getting them out on their podcast. So I've got John Aloisi shirt. I don't know if they even know who I am.
Knows? Hopefully they've got it hung up somewhere nicely. Maybe
I was getting out the shirts today, and I haven't got all of them here, but there was Ayala. I don't know if you remember Roberto
Ayala.
Yeah, so Ayala was a top top defender for Argentina. We played against I think it might have been the Olympics he was at back in 2004. And I asked for his shirt and he goes, I need it for the rest of the tournament because we've only been given a few.
Okay.
And I said, oh, no problem. And he goes, but I'll send it to you. And I thought, okay, yeah, all right, he's going to send it to me. He actually sent it to me. And when I saw it today, I was thinking, you know what? The guy was at the top of his game. He played at Valencia, played Champions League final, played AC Milan as well, Napoli. And you go, and he still had the respect that to still send his jersey. You go, okay, that means a lot.
A true gentleman, exactly like yourself, mate. A big pleasure again. I can't tell you how special this has been to do this. Before I let you go, though, I have this book which you referenced a little earlier. Now, I'm very passionate about the psychological side of everything. I have a book at home where I write down a lot of quotes and just things that I refer back to every now and then. You've said a couple of very good things throughout this program, so I'm going to just pass it over to you and you can be the first to...
Look, this is a simple one. I said it right at the start of the show. But, you know, it's so simple, but it's so hard sometimes when you're going through tough times. You know, after rain, there's sunshine.
And that came from your father?
Yeah, it came from my dad.
Beautiful.
Because you know when you're really down on yourself and you're feeling like, I don't see the end of this, but there always is. There's a way out, and it's how you get out of it. And so that was such a simple message and quote that you probably ever heard a million times. But if you refer back to it, it's always nice.
Special meaning. Well, I'll leave you to your pad and pen there. Yep. I'll give you a salute there again before we wrap up, Johnny, because it was extra special to have you here. Keep doing big things, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.